Welcome to the Dads of Football. We're here talking day one of free agency. Day one, and it seems like the field has been slashed here in terms of free agents. It's almost like, who the hell's left? I don't know.
It feels like a lightning round, right? Like as soon as 11 o'clock hit, Chicago time, 12 o'clock East Coast, it was just like boom, 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 and they just all just fell in place. And it's been like 5, 6, 7 hours of chaos. So
It's been crazy. I'm just gonna point out some notables here. So if
sure,
a lot of people at home they're not watching, I'm gonna put down in the link. There's a really good link. Spottrack.com has amazing info when it comes to just contracts, salary cap, understanding the salary cap. It's one of the better metrics that you're going to see in a really clean layout. So just going through the list here, big moves. Kirk Cousins going from Minnesota to Atlanta, 4-year deal worth $180 million, $90 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money for an older quarterback. Christian Wilkins going from Miami to Las
oh
Vegas.
yeah,
You brought up a little bit when we were talking in private, Xavier McKinney going from the Giants to Green
yep.
Bay. Green Bay been active here. Also, Green Bay signing Josh Jacobs. That
Getting
was a
rid of
big
Aaron
one.
Jones.
Getting rid of Aaron Jones. You brought up Bryce Huff going from the Jets to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then
Yep,
I'm trying to see who's really Saquon Barkley going from the Giants to Philly. That's a big
yep.
one. Philly's been active here as well. Justin Jones going from Chicago to Arizona by Justin.
Yep.
And then I
Tony
only mentioned him.
Pollard.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned him was where did Pollard go? Help me out there.
He went to Tennessee. Tennessee.
Tennessee.
So
Good solid signing. Oh, yep, there he is. Gardner Minshew going from Indiana to Las Vegas. That's an interesting one.
yeah.
Uh, and other than that, those seem to be the major ones. We might mention a few here as we overlap, talking about the ones that we like the most, the ones that we like the least. Josh, give me one that you like the most here. Who did you think made a big splash with the signing?
So I kept waiting for the Bears to do something that was splash worthy. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But the one for me that I like the most, and only because I do kind of pull for this team, the Bengals stealing away safety Geno Stone from the Ravens, your Iowa Hawkeye player. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, he might be the steal so far, right? 2 years, $15 million. The great thing is last year he had 7 picks. So every year of his career so far, he has gotten better. Last year he has 7 picks in a new, admittedly, in a new scheme by Mike McDonald. So now he's moving over to Cincinnati. So who knows exactly what that will look like. But I think what probably happens for him in going there is he lines up at free safety with a young secondary. So he gets to be part of a up and coming defense where you hope that he can probably not get the 7 picks again. That's a big number, but can he get 4, 5, 6? Can he be in that range? Not to mention the fact that Cincinnati takes a very talented player from a division rival. I mean, you want to talk about like sneaky on so many levels there. You are gaining a leg up on them. Now, granted, there's some other places that Cincinnati will have to go, but I'm sure we'll get to that at some point too. So
One the to echo what you're saying about Geno Stone, I'm again biased, him being a Hawkeye. I've seen Geno Stone play a lot of football though. So that's one thing I can say about Geno is that I've seen just about every college game that he's ever played in. And the thing that I can say about Geno is he's not super fast. You weren't probably impressed by some of those
right.
combine numbers in terms of speed, but he's a bulldozer for a guy that's
Yeah.
not the biggest. He's a hard hitter. He was the one that was playing that tweener position between safety and linebacker at
Yep.
Iowa, playing our cash position. So that's the role he was used to. So he can tackle, he can hit, he's strong. Those are the things that I think make Geno Stone such an asset to a team like that. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of surprised that the Ravens didn't try to keep him around, considering that they kind of took one of those guys that was a diamond in the rough. Usually with a guy like that, who you don't have to break the bank to keep around,
Right.
it would have been great to see him continue to flourish there. And I thought he just fit the system so well. It makes me a little concerned that they decided to pass on him. That's the only thing that
Well,
gets me.
Could it be a situation? Could it be a situation where they feel like they polished that unpolished stone, right? That they got him to that point because of the system in place, and they just felt like they could pick somebody else up. I mean, with
Maybe.
NFL execs, you never know. Why spend
No.
the money to get a younger version? Although
Yes.
he's 24 years old.
Yeah, he's not old. And that's
Right.
the thing that scares me a little bit. So yes, maybe they didn't want to spend that much money, but again, for a guy that's going to be a pretty good,
Yeah.
defensive back for you, it's not that much money to spend, and it's not like he
No.
got like this monster contract. It, the only thing I worry about with Gino is there's some fissures there in him that they're like, he's taken a lot of hits over the years.
Right.
Even going back to college, there have been a lot of hits there that he's had to deliver and so on. We've seen it with safeties, particularly guys that are known for tackling, more strong safeties, that when they have to lay down those hits, they take some damage. So I hope that's not the case. I want to see Gino continue to flourish. But I was at that position has done really well in the NFL. And there's going to be more because in the future, when you have a guy like Sebastian Castro coming out of Iowa, he's the same dude to
Right.
all those guys, which is the same as an Amani Hooker or different guys. They're all that cash position, tough as nails. I like your call there. The dude that I was happy about, we talked about him in a video a little while back. I'm going to go Russell Wilson. I thought the Steelers definitely made the right decision in going the Russell Wilson route. You get a
Yeah.
guy that yes, he's past his peak, but you don't need this guy to be your franchise quarterback for years to come. Maybe he
Yeah.
gives you 1 or 2 years, or maybe he does give you 3 years. That would be great. They
Yeah.
only signed him for 1 year. So you get a guy that could pretty much guarantee that he's going to throw between, 35, let's say 3,500 yards. He's going to throw more touchdowns than interceptions. He's going to
Yep.
throw probably in the 63% range. He's going to do enough. And maybe with your receivers, if you keep both of them, maybe
Right.
he unlocks the potential that's there with the two of them, and you only have to pay him $1.2 million.
In an offense that is play action based, which is what he thrived in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So now you're not forcing him to have to necessarily win games with every throw, but you're giving him opportunities to play in an offense that suits what has been his strength, even all the way back to Wisconsin.
You know what? No matter what happens to him, he's going to look like a breath of fresh air because
Yeah.
you're comparing him to Kenny Pickett. And so
and I
when
mean,
you're comparing a
only,
guy to that bad, it's only going to
yes,
get better.
and you're paying him $1.2 million to do it. I mean,
1.2 million. And unfortunately, Kenny Pickett is going to be a poor man's Mitch Trubisky.
yeah, feels like it more and more, doesn't it?
Yeah. I
So
mean, we talked about Mac Jones in our last video being the type of guy that, man, here's a guy that's a first round. And the only difference is Kenny Pickett has done nothing in the NFL to give you any sense of hope that he can do
no,
anything. So it's pretty
no.
much like this guy, once he's done with his contract, maybe even before that, maybe they cut him even before his contract's up. You
They
could
can leave
jettison.
him in that developmental role. I mean, he's not costing them anything. I mean, you
No,
can leave him there and learn from Russ, I guess.
he's not going to learn anything from Russ.
No, probably.
I think
Probably.
he'll try. I don't want to knock it. Like, I don't think he's not going to try. I don't think there's anything wrong with his attitude or his character or anything like
Sure.
that. He seems like a really nice guy. It's the ability. I just don't think he has it. That's
Yeah,
what it comes down to for me. I think Mitch Trubisky has more ability than him.
that's a strong statement. I don't know that I disagree with that, though. Kenny Pickett, to me, got hot right at the right time. Excited people going into the draft. And I think the Steelers hoped, we're going to get this guy and we're going to convert him. And we run this offense that doesn't really require him to throw for 4,000 yards. But he's shown very little. I mean,
Yeah.
it almost seems like he lost one touch on any ball he throws across the middle. And two,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he understands how to work through NFL progressions. Not that I do, not that I do at all, but from a viewing standpoint, from a fan, certainly doesn't look like he has a sense of what he's doing.
No, and even when you have a guy like Pickens and Deontay, like, you could
Yeah.
lock onto one of those guys and even try to force it and maybe do a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah.
The worst. What's one signing that you don't like when you look at this list here?
Well, and it's funny is today midday I'm looking at the DeAndre Swift signing for the Bears and going, what are we really doing with that, right? What's
Mhm.
the need there? However, I don't think that's fair to say that that's the worst. I don't necessarily feel that way. And to be honest with you, for me, the Bears signed Jalen Johnson, kept him in house. That made me very, very, very excited. Um, I, I've got to say, and I don't want to pick on Jacksonville here. I love Gabe Davis. I think he's a very talented player. I do, and I just don't understand why you pay him $39 million for 3 years when in theory you're already paying a receiver that you thought was going to be the guy to get you over the hump. Um, Not to mention the fact they have an opportunity in the draft to go get players. So that one, again, maybe not a terrible signing, but not exactly sure I understand it. I'm not sure the logic behind that there, other than the fact that they've got some money to spend. So maybe they just figured, hey, let's just go ahead and spend it. So
Yeah, I Gabe Davis to me, I think that here's what's going to happen to him. I think with Jacksonville, I think they're going to pull another wonderful reclamation of a wide receiver. They get a guy to reach his full potential that maybe hasn't done that at this
maybe,
point. And not to say that Gabe Davis is a bad receiver. First of all, he was on a team loaded with receivers,
yes,
and he still had the last 2 seasons 800, 700 plus yards
right,
receiving, which on that team, that's a good solid contributor. Maybe
absolutely,
wasn't the 1,200 yard kind of guy that you thought, but he's a big body dude that at the very least can go up and get you some jump balls. You give him more of a role. I think he could be a pretty solid player for them. Um, the money, I, I don't know, could be something. If it works out, then the money's great.
right. I,
um,
and that's not even the one that bothers me the most, right? Because that's a signing. I don't have. What are the Panthers doing? That for me, that's one where I'm just, and I know it's not a free agency training, but you trade away a talented pass rusher. Um, and I get it. Maybe you don't want to pay him. Maybe you look and go, we're a ways down the road. But the Giants send a 2024 second round pick and a 2025 fifth round pick for a very talented pass rusher. And I, it feels like the Panthers are just saying, you know what? We're going to stink for the next couple of years. We screwed up by giving that first round pick this year to the Bears. We'll just pick first again next year. Like I don't understand that move from that standpoint for the Panthers.
yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for. You have a chance to go out and try to make a splash, and
Right.
at least with your quarterback, give them a chance. I mean, they
Yeah.
signed one guy on this opening day, where other teams have signed two and three guys. They get a
Right.
guard. Okay, a guard helps. That's what else do you have? I mean, he
For
still
sure.
has nobody to throw to, unless you think you're going to meet that somewhere along the line. I don't
Right.
know. It just, yeah, it just feels like the urgency is not there on their part. Which again, if you ask the people of Carolina, they'd probably be like, yeah, we don't get it either. They can't be
No.
happy with that franchise, which is kind of just wasting opportunities.
Luke Combs was blasting the Panthers on media all day today following
Mhm.
that trade. So
No, not good. I'm gonna give you the one that I didn't like. And I'm trying to see if I can locate him here on my list. Oh, there he is. And this one might kind of sound as a surprise. I didn't like the signing of Devin Singletary. So
how
when I
come?
look at the Giants signing Devin Singletary,
Right.
here you are, you just let Saquon Barkley go. And your answer is Devin Singletary.
He's 26 years old. You're only paying him eight mil a year, a little over eight. I mean, it's the same as
Oh
what the
man,
Bears did, to be honest.
well, yeah, but the difference is I'd much rather have DeAndre Swift than Devin Singletary. One guy to me has an X factor, the other guy
Yeah,
doesn't. Devin Singletary is a good number two running back in rotation to me.
for
And
sure.
I know people will look at him and say, hey, he put up some pretty decent numbers at Houston last season. True, he did put up some good numbers, still didn't break
Yeah,
1,000 yards. Is a
correct.
guy is that's going to do some things for you, but he's not an X factor. And to be fair, I don't know necessarily that um, that the Giants are thinking about an X factor right now at the running
No,
back position. But you're talking about a guy since 2019. Not once has he put up 1,000 yards in a season.
no, I mean, last year was just under 900, 22. I think he was just over 800, 21, just under 900. I mean, and all of his yards per attempt are under 5, with the exception of his first year, where he only carried the ball 151 times for 775 yards. I mean, that
Yeah.
that was his big year. But since then, it's been slower and slower. And it's not like you're talking about a receiving back. He only caught the ball 30 times last year out of the backfield, and his high water mark is 40. So
And
we're not talking about a special player.
no, and the thing is, you brought up the age of 26. Remember, we're talking running backs here,
Yeah,
and he's put together 3, 4, 5 years at the running back position.
right,
Usually you get whittled down a little bit. Granted, last season was still statistic wise one of his probably his best season if you're looking at
right,
it from that aspect, but that's his best season. So where is he really going to go up, or are we going to start to see him go down? And to me,
right,
the Buffalo Bills didn't keep him around for a reason. They let him go because they didn't see the X factor in the guy. So for the Giants to say, okay, this is our answer to losing Saquon Barkley, who again, Saquon Barkley has been hamstringed by injuries and also by not a very good team. This is what
right.
I'll say about Saquon Barkley going to Philly. Huge upgrade. If the guy stays injury free and plays the way that I think he can play with a very good offensive line, minus now, Jason Kelsey gone, that's not good.
Right.
But I feel like that they can rebound from that. Saquon Barkley, I still think has so much upside to him. And let's just put it out. Did you see the exchange that he had on social media with Tiki Barber?
No, not yet.
So what happened was apparently Tiki put out a message on social media saying, glad to have you gone. We never want to hear your name again. Words to that effect. He said something like, he said something really mean spirited, like "You're dead to us." That's what it was. You're dead to us in New York. And
Well, Tiki's been critical of him.
well, Tiki's
Yeah.
Tiki is not a great person, as we found out.
No,
Hasn't been a good teammate, is arrogant, has destroyed every bit of credibility he's ever had. Um,
absolutely.
so if it's coming from Tiki, if Tiki thinks negatively of you, maybe you're doing something right.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
sorry, Tiki, if you're hating on me, I'm taking that as a compliment because I don't want to be associated with you. So
Nope.
Saquon hit back and just said, "Hey man, whatever. I don't get what you're doing with this stupid talk. You never liked me. You were a hater from the very beginning." And
Yeah.
then he finished off with, "Just don't have a smile on your face when you see me," which I thought was great. And
Yes.
yeah, dude, Saquon's not the dude you want to mess with because I remember when he tore my Iowa Hawkeyes up. I he put up 230 yards alone against us, and I remember seeing those giant thighs of his just rolling through Iowa defenders who were holding on for
Right.
dear life. He's a guy that to me has the potential, still has the potential to be a Christian McCaffrey type dude. I think he could be that good still.
Well, I mean, you look at what he did his rookie year, right? 1,300 yards rushing, 700 yards receiving. He was spectacular. I mean, you keep waiting for that to return. However, and this is my only concern, right? One, health. You talk about how much he took a beating and put a beating on people. Um, but you wonder, can he get healthy, stay healthy, and get back to that? I mean, last year wasn't a terrible year. Yards per attempt were bad, but he almost had 1,000 yards rushing, just under 300 yards receiving. I mean, this is a guy, to your point, you hope he can have that kind of production.
Well,
So I guess that's what
and
they're paying
again,
for.
it's on the Giants. So and
Yeah, oh
here's
yeah,
the danger. And maybe I should follow my own words. I said once you start getting 26 as a running back in the NFL, there's not many good years that come from that. Oh shoot, why do I
unless
talk?
you're unless you're Adrian Peterson. I mean,
Uh,
and again,
yeah,
Saquon
unless
Barkley is that kind of workout freak. I mean, maybe he can get himself back. And look, let's be clear. 2 years ago, he had 1,300 yards rushing.
yeah.
So I don't want to dismiss that. So but can he find a way to continue to be productive in those
Here,
later years, the 28 to
here's where I'm
32 years?
here's where I'm hopeful that 2020 season and that 2021 season,
Right.
there wasn't much happening there.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't have a lot of carries. Yes, there were injuries. So really, you base on what he still has left on the last 2 years.
Yep.
1,300 yards and 962, basically 2,000-yard seasons back to
Yes.
back on a team that is awful, who was
With
incredibly
a
one dimensional. You know they
yes.
can't throw it, so stack the box, put 9 guys in there every single time,
Right.
and get
Right.
ready to. And he still is getting that type of yardage. To me,
Right.
that's where the bonus is. Again, the average isn't great because they're running it every single time.
Yep.
With a team that could throw it, they could use a little trickeration. I think he still has the potential to have 2 or 3 really good Pro Bowl
Yeah.
type years in there. And then after that, you're just lucky to get whatever you can get.
If you can get 1,200 yards out of him the next 2 years, maybe with 500 yards receiving, 400 yards receiving, somewhere in that range because of the offense and what they do. I mean, that's absolutely a win, and he's worth every single penny. So,
Yeah, I hope it works out for him. I just
yeah.
it's just a shame again that he went to a team that's just been getting getting in front of itself in every single move that they've ever had. Yes, we
Yep.
could talk about Daniel Jones and what a terrible signing that was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a litany of bad things, bad coaching decisions, but that comes from the top down.
Yep.
Just been truly a garbage organization, a la the Carolina Panthers.
Oof.
Anyone else here that jumps out at you that you want to bring up before we sign off?
No, I mean, the only thing is I alluded to DeAndre Swift, right? Going to the Bears, and not that I think he'll be terrible. Um, I just paying $8 million for a guy who had his best year last year with 1,000 yards rushing. Are you paying him for what he did or what he can do? Because he hasn't really remained a mainstay in an offense as a starter, with the exception of last year. So, is last year what he's going to be moving forward, or is he going to be the playing 8 games in 22, 4 games in 21, 4 games as a starter, not
Mm-hmm.
just played in? Um, can he continue to ascend? Can he continue to put that together? Because last year he averaged 4.6 yards a carry. The year before that, he was 5.5. So are those the two guys you're getting? Uh, that's the curious signing for me, especially with a young, talented Roshan Johnson, and Khalil Herbert, who it seemed like they were going to stick to for a little while. But again, in the
Well,
Windy City, you never know where it's going to blow. So
you need a committee, right? So he and Herbert
for sure,
could do something in tandem together. I think that's more of an indictment on Roshan Johnson, maybe
I think so too.
that they just don't think he's gonna has the potential to really become a main guy for them.
Although a different kind of player, right? I mean, DeAndre Swift is not the size and carry
No,
ability, if you will, of Roshan Johnson, but you just wonder if, to your point, is it we're adding a guy who's a little bit more of a weapon that we can, throw the ball to more out of the backfield. We can put him at the slot. That's what it feels like with DeAndre Swift. Like, this is more of a sign of what's coming with the Bears offense.
yeah. Well, and then here's the
So,
thing: the needless drama over the last few years in Chicago by letting Montgomery walk. It's almost kind of like if
right.
you were gonna just circle back to a guy so much like him, you might as well have just kept Montgomery from the very beginning
Yep.
and just let that work out rather than let Montgomery go, bring on Foreman for a year to hopefully take some
Right.
reps. And then now you go to a guy like Swift. I don't know. And again, the only other thing with Swift that I don't like, although I thought he did a very admirable job last year in Philadelphia,
For sure.
the only thing I'm not crazy about is his past injury concerns. Again, when you talk about
Yes.
injuries, we talked about Saquon Barkley. I mean, Swift early on in his career had a number of issues there. Um,
Yeah.
but he's got potential to be an okay signing. But to me, he's a guy that's going to have to work in a committee with Khalil Herbert.
Yep.
That's the only way it's going to work, which unfortunately is kind of the way of the NFL at this point.
For sure.
So that's day one. We'll get back to you probably closer to day 3 or 4, and we'll bring you another recap, I'm assuming, from that, other than maybe if there's a shocking twist of fate that happens in the future, if we get any information on, I don't know, a certain quarterback in Chicago, if he happened to be moved, that might prompt an emergency episode. So if that happens, I might go just live on my phone and just start talking about it, because that would be a holy shoot moment right there, right? I mean, that's one where that would break the internet, I think, if that happens. I don't think it's going to happen.
Although it feels like more and more like he's not going anywhere. So
yeah, and strangely enough, it almost feels like you might have two quarterbacks in Chicago. If they really like
talented quarterbacks,
if they like Caleb Williams, they might just go ahead and take him.
Yeah, let him compete and then go from there. Trade him after the fact.
Yeah, well, it won't be a comp. Yes, yeah, it won't be a competition. The writing will be on the wall.
So.
No, so we'll see what happens. That's day one. Make sure to like, subscribe. We will see you in the near future to talk about more moves.